It's Talk Funny, a podcast by Mark Bailey and other comics from all over. We ended up in Japan because we wanted to get away with the erection fraud. The Talk Funny podcast from NagoyaRadio.com and Nagoya Comedy. Here's Mark Bailey.
Here's Mark Bailey.
We're back. This is Mark Bailey, and we're here with Mike Miller. This is Talk Funny. And we're talking off mic about comedians I don't think are funny that I've met. And Richard Lewis is one of them. Richard, if you're listening, go ahead, man. AskPortJapan@yahoo.com. We will put you on the podcast. But you were never funny in the 80s. You're funny on Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David because he lets you be the nebbish that you actually are. You're a sad sack, unfunny piece of crap old guy, and you humiliated Gilbert Gottfried on his podcast. He's done more than you, even though he's younger than you, and you were never funny on stage, stand up, in my opinion. My name is Mike Miller. You can email me, blacklist me, I don't care, but Richard Lewis is actually funny now on Curb Your Enthusiasm as the sad sack who never gets the respect. That's what he really is, and that's why Larry David's
but he
genius.
missed his chance to be an English comedian star in Japan.
Exactly.
He missed his chance completely.
That's why he may not ever be on podcasts.
Yeah.
But that's Larry David. That's the genius of Larry David.
Curb Your Enthusiasm is just like a mild consolation for not being on this podcast, don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's about equal. Well, I was on Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yeah, but you weren't on the podcast.
You were never on Talk Funny.
So with Richard Lewis, I think that's the genius of Larry David, who wrote, of course, for Seinfeld and then Curb Your Enthusiasm. And Larry David said he doesn't have scripts; they have a premise. And they say I'll call in Richard Lewis, and I'm just going to talk about how all of his girlfriends are whores, and that's all Richard Lewis knows. And then Richard Lewis goes on the defensive, and he does it with Bob Einstein.
Albert Brooks is his brother.
Albert Brooks, yeah. So Bob Einstein will be on Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Bob Einstein is very sensitive to the fact that he's not as successful as his brother. So all Larry David says is, I'm gonna ask you why you're not your brother. And then Bob Einstein is just getting defensive. And it's basically just a one take, and that's what Larry David does. And he puts people on and just gets them to rant. We were talking about in the 80s when Logan and I were doing comedy at the New York circuit, New York, New Jersey, and we opened for Rodney Dangerfield, his bathrobe period. He's doing coke.
Bathrobe period, yeah.
He's doing coke, and he was very rude to everyone. This is before his special, and we wanted to get picked for the special. So I would tell Logan, I know you're high and everything, but just be nice. Just be nice to him. He does coke and he does pot, but he doesn't want comics on drugs. He's the only one. And so Logan will come up and go, we both shook his hand, and Logan went up and shook Rodney Dangerfield's hand. Hi, Mr. Dangerfield. It's great to meet you, and I haven't done drugs in a day.
Nice.
So Rodney Dangerfield goes, What? In a day? What are you, a deadbeat? Get out of my club. Who are you with? And he goes, I'm with, and I'm like, hey, Logan, don't point me, please. Jesus. So I actually went on, and then when I got off, I had accidentally insulted his doorman. His doorman was his cousin, and I said, once you get into the club, they're a-holes to you, but outside they're unbearable. So that was my joke. And he goes, "Who do you mean outside?" I said, that doorman is like. I said, Burger King University apparently fails people. He goes, that's my nephew, you deadbeat. What's your name? My name is Richard Lewis.
Oh.
Yeah, but he was
Mark
rude.
is very good at ingratiating himself with people.
He was rude to everyone, and he agreed to pay the openers, Logan and I, $5. That was a lot in the 80s, $5 to get some money.
My God, you get what do you buy, Cracker Jacks?
And he goes, and we bought probably 3 drinks that are, $4 a piece. And he goes, you can kiss your $5 goodbye because you insulted my doorman. I'm like, yeah, as if you were going to pay. I said, I bet you don't even have $5 bills in your till. Like,
you can kiss your $5 goodbye, sir.
Rodney Dangerfield, I'm going to have a podcast one day, and you're going to be dead. And then I'm going to be right, and you're going to be dead.
Yeah, and he never appeared on the podcast either, did he?
And he never will.
Never will. He's banned from Talk Funny.
Only podcast he would have ever been on was Gilbert Gottfried's podcast a day before he dropped dead.
Which is why I'm concerned about Patton Oswalt's health right now.
Yeah, that's kind of concerning because usually Dick Van Dyke, Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Burnett, they come on the show because they know they're going to die. Off Mike and I were talking about Mitzi, who just passed away from an Comedy Store in L.A. And my comedy partner from the 80s was hilarious off stage, and he was so miserable on stage that he made me laugh. And he actually did a set, and she didn't like it. She blacklisted him. because he told a joke about being on LSD and trying to explain to his father why he crashed his car on LSD, but he didn't want to explain the LSD part, so he said the frogs were screaming, the frogs would not stop talking. I screamed at the frogs, shut up, and he said, what frogs are you talking about? Why is my car wrecked? Are you on drugs? And he goes, no, it's just that the outside is louder than you think. The outside is so loud. And he's like, well, it's not loud if you're sober. He's like, well, no, I'm sober and I'm not on drugs. But you know how when you turn the water on and you've done too much nutmeg and the water just flashes into your eyes? And his dad is like, no. So he did that on stage, and Mitzi goes, sorry, hon, no jokes about drugs. We don't do drugs in California. It's hilarious.
Oh, my God.
I've been Mark Bailey.
Tell that to Joe Rogan.
Or let's dig up Mitch Hedberg and tell him that. Let's dig up Richard Pryor and tell him that. Let's dig up like every headliner in history at the Comedy Store. Thanks, Mitzi. Rest in peace. Not. I'm Mark Bailey. It's been Mike Miller. Talk funny.